And again, our energies run in habits and patterns. And so if you're someone who's always going to bed that late, then you have habituated this energy system to basically usurp the energies from other places in your body to keep you propped up instead of letting your body flow on into the night, into the energy systems that are supposed to be working while you sleep.
Welcome to the world of energy, where science meets spirit. Ancient wisdom merges with cutting-edge knowledge, and the possibilities for a healthier, happier you are endless. I'm Lauren Walker.
And I'm Blaine Wilkes. This is Energy Works, your portal into the incredible world of energy medicine. Whether you're a seasoned energy practitioner seeking to deepen your knowledge or someone new to the concept of energy medicine, this podcast was created for you. Together, we unravel the intricate threads of energy that weave through our lives, revealing practical insights, stories, and actionable tools you can start using right away.
Join us on this captivating journey through the world of energy right here and learn how energy works. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Energy Works. And I'm Lauren and here with Blaine. Say hi, Blaine.
Hi.
And so we are going to talk about one of the pillars of health. There are in Ayurveda, which is the sister science or the science, the healing modality from India, of which yoga is a branch of. It's a 5,000-year-old healing modality that is still used today. And they have 3 pillars of health. And so one of the pillars of health is sleep. And so we're going to talk about sleep today. And I'm going to tee us up because if you've read our newsletters, you know that Blaine just wrote a newsletter about an interesting quality that she has and an interesting little nickname that she has among her friends. And she started off with, everybody or many people are known by sort of a weird, quirky thing that they have that's their sort of signature. And my weird, quirky thing is I'm called the logistics queen. Like if you want to figure out how to do some trip or plan some event or anything that involves logistics and planning, I'm your girl. I'm the sweet spot. I love doing that. And Blaine wrote in this newsletter that her quirk is she's known as the sleep queen. And it was such an interesting thing to kind of pinpoint about herself. And she sort of talked about it a little more. And I was so fascinated by it that I thought, let's do a whole podcast where we talk about why are you the sleep queen and why is that so valuable in your life? She is, as some of you know, and you're starting to learn, she is a very, very high achiever. And I think a lot of that has to do with her dedication to her sleep. And I'm laughing only because it sounds kind of funny, but it's not a joke. This is the real deal. This is one of the reasons why she is such an accomplished woman. So Blaine, tell us a little bit about where that nickname came from and why you wear it so proudly.
I love this crown, Lauren. I love it. And that's why I was compelled to write this newsletter about it, because there is no one who is close to me who doesn't know about me and sleeping. And I'll start with, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think it matters, at least in my story around sleep, is boundaries. I have very publicized boundaries around sleeping. And they're, especially in the evening, I am in bed. I used to always be in bed by like 8:45 to be asleep by 9. I would say the last couple of months, it's been more like 8:15. It's moving earlier. So I can have a little bit more time to relax. But my plan is to be asleep by 9. And I have habituated and conditioned my body to know that 9 o'clock is sleep time. And so what I loved about this part of the journey is once I made it really public that I'm going to leave the party early, or I'm not going to go, or I'm not going to go to the concert or whatever, because I have this bedtime, all of a sudden, everybody's protecting my bedtime. And people will have a little small group party before their real party. So I can come over and have some food and see people and get home so I can be in bed. Or even my partner, Burke, for those of you on audio, I'm like tapping my watch right now. He'll be like, oh, Blaine, it's getting close to bedtime. Let's clean the kitchen or whatever. Or if I'm out of town and I call him before bed, he's like, oh my God, it's almost your bedtime. I mean, the world wants me to go to bed on time and supports me. And so part of my story is just making my boundaries super clear in public. And so that's where Sleep Queen came from, is A, I don't mess with it. The rules are the rules. And B, as I am now postmenopausal, and so many of my peers are also postmenopausal, and many conversations come up around not being able to sleep at night, I don't have that problem. And so I sleep great all through perimenopause. Now I'm, over a year post-menopause. I've just never had a problem with the sleeping. And so that's where Ask Blaine, she's the sleep queen, that came from. And so again, Lauren, I wear it with pride. I'm super happy to have this label. I've had others that were not as complimentary. So I'm good with this one.
I love that. And, what I'm really interested in, and I want to talk about all of these sleep things. There's two things that you said that really stick out to me. One is that you characterize this as being a boundary that you set for yourself, as opposed to just like, I do this, I do that. This is a boundary. This is something that is non-negotiable in your life, and it feeds the health of every other aspect of your life. But I really like that you used the word boundary for that, because I think that's important when we're talking about making changes, small changes or big changes in our lives that we can kind of waver with, like, oh, I really want to give up sugar, but then, oh, my partner brings home cupcakes and maybe I'll just have one. It's like your boundary gets kind of wiggly around that. But, so I like that word. I think that's really powerful. And the other thing that you said that really stuck out to me was this menopausal, perimenopausal, postmenopausal, so much. I was actually just listening to a podcast this morning when I was skating, and they were talking about all of these things that come up during those times of life for women, and that we always are talking about, the world that's talking about perimenopause and menopause, postmenopause. It's always talking about the problems that you have. This syndrome or that issue, or, we don't need to list all of those now. That could be another podcast, but it's always talking about the problems. And you flip it and you're like, this is going great for me. And I think that's really valuable for us to look at the things that are going really well. Now, obviously, we need to know the challenges in our lives so we can address those, but to also really put some emphasis on the good things and the good things that are coming out of different transitions in our lives, and just that this is a great thing. And so then you become a resource for other people as well, because you're not kind of like hiding that because I don't want anyone to know that like this isn't a problem for me. Like this is actually my sweet spot. You're like, hey dude, this is my sweet spot. I am the sleep queen. If you've got issues, ask me. So I want to ping it back over to you and ask you to share a little bit about if maybe you didn't have good sleep and that's what led you to this, and how you got to this place where sleeping is your sweet spot.
Yeah, I certainly, when I had my whole corporate career, I didn't have good sleep. I mean, there was probably a time I was the party queen. If a person can flip from the party queen to the sleep queen, that is me. And I'm serious about this. I would not give up my social life. And I think it was just a lot of insecurity. And then, I have friends and, the FOMO kind of thing. Oh, this party's happening. And if I'm not there, I'm going to miss out. And, just a lot of allowing myself to be pulled into social things and then sacrificing my sleep for that. And then that would turn into hitting the snooze alarm. And I got in this habit of going to bed too late, having good intentions to get up in the morning, hitting the snooze alarm a bunch of times instead, being mad at myself that I didn't do what I promised myself I was going to do, and then doing it again and doing it again and doing it again. And I was in that cycle for a long time. And now I guess I care about myself enough that I don't care. I've habituated everyone around me. And if you don't want to be my friend because you only want to do things at 10:30 at night, like, I'm not the friend for you. I'm okay with that. And so, I mean, I do think I have attracted and repelled, right? I've attracted the people who jive and vibrate where I am and can respect that. And I can respect their choices, even if their choices are different than mine. And I've repelled the people who aren't, don't necessarily have a lifestyle that jives with my lifestyle. And so we're just not going to be social friends. And so really prioritizing self-care. And then once I got there, asleep by 9, up at 5. I mean, this is my biggest advice for women is get your 8 hours. And so I can't go to bed at 9 because then I won't be asleep until 9:15 or 9:30, right? And so my little small bedtime routine I have, that has to happen all before 9 so I can be asleep at 9, up at 5, 7 days a week. I do this 7 days a week. And it works because by 9 o'clock at night, by 8:30 at night, I am tired. I've been up since 5 a.m. every day. And I exercise in the morning. I have a meditation practice I do, and then I exercise. And then there's very strong science about morning sunlight and your biorhythms, your biological clock. And so if your eyes can see the rising sun as it is coming, if it's lowish on the horizon and you see that in the morning, that is all these triggers for your biorhythm about when you should go to bed, when you should wake up, when you should go to bed. And I'm outside seeing that because it's when I exercise all the time. And, sometimes it's later in the day or earlier or whatever, but there are a couple of days a month that for some reason I don't. And I go stand on my porch and I just kind of look out. The way my porch is at home, I face the right direction. I'd be in my backyard if, the sun rays is in the west, but my porch goes the right way. And I make sure and get that morning sun in my eyes. But our energy runs in habits and patterns. And so I'm just very regimented and ritualized on the go to bed routine and the wake up routine. And every night by 9, I'm so freaking tired, I can go to sleep.
I totally resonate with that part of it for sure. But I want to sort of pull on this thread because this is what I think is so fun about doing this podcast with you. We literally could be opposite sides of every coin. Like, I do like to stay up a little bit later. I'm not a real late night owl, but I'm definitely not an early bird. And I try to wake myself up early and all of that, but it's not my natural rhythm to do that. And I do stay up later, but I do always get that 8 hours. Sometimes I'll actually get a little bit more than that time. And for a little while, I wore the Oura ring. I don't like it, and I don't often recommend. I know you're supposed to wear them at night because they're tracking all your things, but I feel some electromagnetic interference from that, and I'm super sensitive. So that's, not your average bear, but I definitely am not a fan of those. But when I did wear it for a little while, I think it's called latency, but I could be the wrong word of like how long it takes you to fall asleep. And it was like 30 seconds. I would lay down and then I would be asleep. And there was actually, when they give you the feed out, that was an issue that they thought needed to be corrected. Like, I'm falling asleep too quickly. But one of the things too, you talk about, you go to bed at 9 every night. So I don't. I stay up later than that, and I'm probably in bed by 10 or 10:30. Last night we were watching a very compelling show and we stayed up to 11. But by 11, I was just like, I got to get to sleep. There's one more episode, cliffhanger. Should we watch it now? And I'm like, that's putting me into bed at midnight. And that is just not gonna work for me. And Blaine, tell us all why it was okay that I stayed up as late as I did, but I would have been pushing it if I watched that final episode. Why?
Yes. So back to the biorhythms that we have. We have, and I think we all know this, right? Like we have biorhythms for our wake sleep cycles and for other cycles in the body. And one of them is the energy system of our meridians. And we have 12 of them, and we have 24 hours in a day. And so each of our meridians it's called a high tide. And then each of the meridians has what's called a low tide. And high tide means it's most active, and low tide means it's least active. And so in a 24-hour day, there are meridians that are most active for 2 hours and least active for 2 hours. And they're rotating, if you can imagine, like a clock on your wall. Instead of 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you would just have the name of meridians. And we won't go too deep into all of this, but there is a really important one called triple warmer. And triple warmer goes into high tide it's 9 to 11, right? Lauren, 9 to 11, it goes in at 9 and goes out at 11. Yeah, 9 to 11. And so what that means is that when 11 o'clock comes, triple warmer is ready to start to wind down. And triple warmer manages our habits, our fight or flight, our stress response, it's kind of props us up in a lot of ways. And so if 11 o'clock comes and triple warmer's like, okay, sleepy time now, and you override that and you say, no, I'm going to watch another show, or I'm going to work on my business, or I'm going to flip through Instagram for another hour, or whatever it is, then triple warmer's like, okay, I got to prop her up. Like, we have a situation here. And so you have invited this energy system to keep you going in this artificial way by not putting your head on the pillow and winding down in the way that it expects you to. And so this term second wind, and man, I have felt it back when I used to stay up later at night. It's like, oh, I'm working on this project, but I should go to bed, but it's due tomorrow. I'm just going to keep working. And then all of a sudden, 11:30 or 12, I'm like productivity lady, right? And that is because triple warmer is helping me out. And again, our energies run in habits and patterns. And so if you're someone who's always going to bed that late, then you have habituated this energy system to basically usurp the energies from other places in your body to keep you propped up instead of letting your body flow on into the night, into the energy systems that are supposed to be working while you sleep.
Yeah, just, you talked
Anything to
about
add,
that,
Lauren?
what triple warmer governs, and you said, the stress responses, which include the stress hormones. And so if you are, you stay up past that 11 and your body needs some energy, then triple warmer is going to dive in to where it knows it can get it, and that's your adrenals, and we're going to squeeze out some cortisol, and that's going to give you that rush of stress energy, because staying up late and making all of your body operate when it's not meant to increases the cortisol levels. And so you got that cortisol running through your body so that you can stay up and you get your second wind. But then cortisol is what you need. It rises up in the morning. It's what gets you awake in the morning and gets you going in your day. And if you've used up all of this cortisol so that you can stay up at night, well, you see what happens. It's like you've poured all the liquid out and now you've got nothing left. And now you've got to get up in the morning, but now you're dragging. And, this isn't new information. A lot of and you've read studies about if you, people that work the swing shift, right? The midnight to 8 shift or the 4 to midnight shift, but certainly that overnight shift has a marked increase in all kinds of negative health outcomes, because you are so disconnected from the natural biorhythm of the body and the peaks and valleys that the stress hormones are designed to make. You are not allowing them to do that. And it's really unhealthy, let alone that you're not getting good sleep. But actually, that is one of the reasons, right? Because if we can turn the page and go one step further, sleep is when the healing happens, the rejuvenation happens, the muscle growth happens. Everything that is allowing you to heal and to thrive in your life and to, even all of the brain inputs that you've had all day. There's theories that like what's going on with your dreams, it's renegotiating and refiling everything in the brain and nervous system. And so if you don't have that time, you're not healing, you're not rejuvenating, you're not regenerating. And that just, again, starts to lead you to all of these negative health outcomes.
Thank you. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful explanation about cortisol. And that leads me to another thought about what's happening while you sleep, this healing that is happening while you sleep. There are all these nightly routines that your body is doing while you sleep. And one of them is like flushing through the brain. And for your brain health, which is part of like the dream and all that sort of thing, is this cleansing process of your brain, but also all of your organs and your lymph. And I mean, there's so much magic happening while we sleep that's vitally important to our health and longevity. And so part of this going to bed early thing, or consistently, like it doesn't have to be early, we'll just say consistently, a consistent 7 days a week, go to bed, get up cycle is when are you going to have dinner? Or when are you going to have your last big meal? Because the hardest thing, the most difficult process your body does is digest. And in Ayurveda, which Lauren talked about earlier, well, it's all about digestion first. Like if you were going to say Ayurveda in one word, it's like digestion. And so we don't want to be digesting while we're sleeping. And so in Ayurveda, you eat light dinners early. And so you can digest them fully. And I mean, I know many other scientists say this today, but Ayurveda has been saying this for thousands of years, right? Thousands of years. Eat your final meal, make it your lightest meal of the day, and eat it early enough in the evening, because if your body is doing this difficult digesting process while you sleep, it cannot also be doing fully all of these nightly routines that it is supposed to be doing. It's too much for the body to do at once, and the body's going to have to digest because that's the hardest thing it does, and it's going to have to get done. And so that will come at the cost of other processes it should be doing while you're sleeping. And then research shows that people just don't sleep as well when they're full and they're digesting and have the big late meal and all that sort of thing. Your sleep is more interrupted because your body is trying to like churn through this hard process while you are sleeping. And so I just didn't want to skip over that part, the eat early and late.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I'm glad that you brought that up, early and light. And I think, is it 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed that you're supposed to finish that final meal? And light. So in Ayurveda and in many cultures around the world, this is done all over Europe as well, that the largest meal is the midday meal. That's when the digestive fire is the highest. And that's when you're meant to eat the most difficult things. If you do have, difficult things to digest, it like meats or cheeses, dense proteins in your diet, that's the time to eat them because the digestive fire is very high. And then later around, 5 or 6 or 7 at night, you're having supper, which the original meaning of that word is supplemental. That's where the word supper comes from. It's supplemental. It's not a huge feast. It's often very light. It's maybe a bowl of soup and a piece of bread or something that's easy for the body to digest. Khichdi from India, a grain dish that's cooked very long and almost pre-digested before you eat it. It's almost like not a baby food, but it's very like it's got a little bit of that consistency, right? It's quite delicious. I'm not giving it its proper credit here. But that's what you're eating at a supplemental meal. And sometimes you're not even eating that. If you've eaten enough at lunch and you feel satisfied and satiated, you don't even need that supplemental meal. And then the body has even that much more energy to do all of the other healing processes that would get waylaid by digesting. So I think that's really important that you brought that up. I want to dive into one other thing that is important to do. It's sort of like all these things we have to do early enough so that the body can get ready for sleep. But I don't want you to think about like those last 3 hours of your day as like, oh, I can't do anything. I can't eat then. And we're going to talk about exercise right now. So like what, so let's talk about exercise because you talked about doing it early in the morning and I do that as well. And so it's really important that we don't exercise too late in the day as well. And I'm going to add another queendom to you. You're kind of the exercise queen. So do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? And we can just dive into that a little bit. When should you exercise? And, what if you work a full day and you work, 9 to 5, you get the kids off to school, so you can't do the thing in the morning. So what are you doing and why?
Yeah. So, exercise, everybody is going to have a different time of day that it feels best for them. And some of that can be manipulated and some of that maybe can't. Again, I think that most of us can train our body, especially if we're doing a very consistent schedule, can train our body to do, to shift. If you're like a night exerciser now, with some effort, you could probably, maybe make yourself an afternoon exerciser or something like that. I am a morning exerciser, I think for a bunch of reasons. I have a lot of energy in the morning. I am like the Energizer Bunny. I wake up in the morning and it's like the battery is full and I'm like, ding, 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 you know what I mean? And then as the day goes on, and by like 6 or 7, I'm like, ding. I don't even like to do work. I definitely, unless there is some kind of work emergency or big, something that we're doing with the business, after dinner, I'm not working. Like I'm not going to my computer. I am not running on all cylinders at that point. And so, but I think the reason why my energy is like this is because I have habituated myself to be like this. And so there's something to me so sacred about the early morning, about it going from quiet and hearing the birds start to chirp and the animals start to rustle and the sun start to rise. It is just this divine, sacred time to me that I love to be there to witness and not miss. And like I said, I do a meditation practice first thing in the morning. And then I have like a little bit of like 100 calories of food or something and go exercise. And then I come back and have my full breakfast. And, to be honest, I've probably evolved to this meditate in the morning, exercise in the morning, because I get it over with. Because I've certainly not always done it this way. And then it's like it's later in the day and I haven't meditated yet. And when am I going to do it? Or it's later in the day and I haven't exercised yet. And they're just hanging on my shoulders like this other thing I have to get done. Or if I get up in the morning, bam, bam, meditation done, exercise done, then I just feel light and free for everything else I need to do. And not having that hanging on my shoulders, I enjoy that. And so I think in pursuit of this, get it over with, there's a book, I'm vegan, and so this is a terrible, like, non-vegan thing, but it's something about eating the frog. And have you ever heard this, Lauren, the Eat the Frog?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. There's been a lot of frog stuff coming up lately in our world, so I don't know, but let's see.
So it's this analogy. It's a productivity author. And so this is actually a business thing. And what this author says is, if you have to do something that day that you just really don't want to do, eat the frog. Just do it first before you do any other work. like that thing you're dreading, the thing you don't want to do, the part of your job that you hate or you're not good at. For me, sometimes it's writing. Like I just like eat the frog, just like get it done. And then the whole rest of the day, it's not hanging on your shoulders because you've already done it. And so I think I'm going to say eat the tofu. And so I think that, I just have gotten to where I do that. And I actually do my writing in the morning too. And so I really try to, but I know it's just this time I have the most energy. I am the most expansive. It is a time of day that I enjoy. And then I don't have stuff, I won't cuss. I don't have stuff weighing on me for the rest of the day that I just keep like kicking the can down the afternoon.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I also think that not being a natural early person, that it has taken me a little bit more work than maybe it's taken you to get to that place. And I still, no matter, I could go to bed at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night even. And this is just, I could. And still 6, 7, 8, I still don't want to get out of bed, like it's like I kind of snuggle in and Louie's all cuddly and he's like, he gets closer and closer to me during the night. So he's like literally on top of me and we're snuggling. And it's like, I could go back to sleep and I have these great dreams. So it's really been like to make that happen. And we've just done in our company, Energy Medicine Yoga, we just did this big fall reset. And it's about, giving yourself a little bit more structure because we're coming into the season of structure. That's really what the autumn is about. It's structure. It's no coincidence that that's when, all the schools start and everything again, because it's a structured time after the unstructured time of summer. And I've really been loving that. And I've been waking up before my alarm goes off and I still am dragging a little bit, but I love it. And this morning I got up early. I go to Pilates. I'm looking I live in the mountains and also in the woods. And so I got into town just a little bit before 8, which is not that early, but here we are, a little bit before 8. And finally the sun was just rising up over the mountain. It's that late that I'm going to see the sunrise where I live. And I stopped and I went back into the middle of the street and I did some sunning where you don't look at the sun directly. So you close your eyes and then you turn your head to the side, open your eyes, and then pass your head, like you're turning your head side to side, horizon to horizon, and you're opening at the sides and not when you're looking directly at the sun, and allowing that to come into the body. And I feel the same way when I get all of that out of the way, but I enjoy it. So it's not like getting it out of the way. In the morning, the whole rest of the day feels so spacious to me because I'm not trying to stick anything in. Like and I've sometimes gotten to the place where like, I don't even know what to do with this extra time. This is when I would be going to do a thing and I've already done the thing. So I really like that. And, but I also want to talk about why it's important that we don't do really, hard exercise late in the day. And it's a really similar reason of why we don't want to eat late in the day. And so do you want me to ping it back to you, Blaine? You want to talk a little bit about why it's better to exercise like a harder exercise? Like, I went ice skating today and I know you probably went running today. And that's something that you want to do earlier in the day. And maybe you can share why.
Yeah. In a nutshell, it's stimulation for the nervous system, stimulation for the brain, the heart. When you get your heart pumping really quickly, you get the brain firing, you get your muscles firing, you get everything going. It's really quite stimulating. It's why people feel great after they exercise. Is because you're really like pushing the body in this way that the body wants to move. Like we have the the plant is like, sun, just like it doesn't have to move. And there's little chemicals in the plant that helps protect it from predators and keeps it from being eaten. And it can just be in place and get all its nourishment. We have arms and legs, right? We have to go get our food. We have a body that is meant to move. We have limbs. It's a massive part of our health. And I think we all know that when we stop moving, morning, things start going downhill from a health perspective. So all that to say, it's very stimulating. It's very good. It does not help you sleep. Like all of the things that are happening after you exercise are not things that are like, hey, system, wind down. It's time to go to bed now. It is basically the opposite of that. And so, sure, you can do some gentle yoga. You can maybe go for a sunset walk or a paddle on the water, or something that is more like calming and slow and in recognition of winding down at the end of the day, but not something that is stimulating and fast and under the umbrella of what we would call like, I did my workout. That needs to happen earlier.
And to tag on to that, you said, that it's stimulating. And so that's not the part that's going to like wind you down to sleep. However, you need to do that and to like work the body and all parts of the body and all directions of the body and get your heart rate up and all of those things at the right time so that later in the day you are tired enough to sleep and that you've actually utilized the physical form that you're in whatever capacity you have available to you. We all have different limitations and challenges, but whatever capacity you have available to you, so that when it's time to go to sleep, you've taken the body through a daytime of activity that supports why the body was created, like why we're here and what we're doing. And it's, in my opinion, it's to be able to experience as much as we can experience. I really feel like that's one of our soul's purposes for being here is experiential and witnessing, to see what's going on in the world and to see and witness the beauty and what that does for us internally when we do that. So when we move the body and we feed the body and we have these experiences that move and feed our soul, then at the end of the day, we feel this completion and satisfaction with our day. And if we haven't done that, if we haven't worked the body enough or fed or, nourished the body, not just fed the body, but nourished the body, that's, I think, what leads to then sleep irregularities. So we can be overstimulated, caffeine, which we haven't even talked about, right? So caffeine or too much exercise or staying up too late or eating too late, all of those things are overstimulating. But we can also have negative sleep outcomes if we're understimulated. If we're, if you think about if you're depressed and you just, you're just sitting around eating ice cream and crying all day, which I'm not making fun. I've been there, right? And then when it's time to go to sleep at night, you really can't because you haven't really been doing anything and the body's all dysregulated. And so you don't find that relief and that release that comes from this good night of rejuvenative sleep.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that and bringing that up. I want to address what I do if I can't sleep. Because, there are, I'm not like a robot, right? There are definitely times that I do wake up and, there's really two pieces for most people. First, can you go to sleep when you put your head on the pillow? And then can you stay asleep? Like those are, some people have problems with one or the other or both. I do the same thing for any of the above. Like if, I've been laying there I'm like you, Lauren. Sleep queen. And when I'm traveling with friends, they're like, Blaine puts her head on the pillow and she's asleep in like 1 second, because I'm tired. It's 100% true. So it is very rare that I don't fall quickly asleep, but it is not unheard of, right? But I do the same thing either way. Or if I happen to wake up in the middle of the night and, to go to the bathroom or whatever, and I find that I'm thinking or ruminating or something like that, and I'm having a hard time going to sleep, I first turn to my breath. And so, and Lauren, I want to hear what you do, but I'll tell you what I do. And I think I put this in the same newsletter. I took a Zen Buddhism meditation. I went through a Zen Buddhism meditation program a few years ago because I wanted to learn it. That is not how I do my normal meditation. Is not the Zen Buddhism way. I do it a different way. However, I do something similar. I do what I learned there, a piece of it when I can't sleep, which is counting my breath. And so I breathe in and out through the nose. No, I feel like with my old business, I think I wrote a newsletter once called like "Stop Counting Sheep, Start Counting Breaths" or something like that.
Oh yeah,
When I
remember
was
that.
when I was talking about this, yeah, I wrote an article or a blog post or something. But it's all you do is count to 10. So it's inhale through the nose 1, exhale through the nose 2, inhale through the nose 3, exhale, dot, 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 inhale through the nose 9, exhale through the nose 10, inhale through the nose 1. And so you just count to 10 and then you go back to 1, and you count to 10 and you go back to 1. And so almost always, I don't even get to 10 one or two times, and then it's like morning. And so that usually, and I do that if I can't go to sleep, and I'll also do that if I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't fall back asleep. The other thing that I do is palm the eyes, which we do this often at the beginning of Shavasana and the EM yoga practice, where I'll describe for those of you who are listening on audio, is we just rub our hands together and create a little heat and friction and energy between our palms. And then bring the heels of the hand below the eyes, cup the eyes with the palms. I like to put my thumbs on my temples, and our fingertips are up in the hairline. And we're holding points below the eyes. We're holding points above the eyes. We are holding points in the hairline. If your thumbs are on your temples, you're holding points there. And it's just a gentle resting of the hands. You're not like mushing your face or anything. It's just a gentle resting of the hands. Your hands are healing devices that are attached to your body that you have. And so you're just bringing everything down. There are so many little magical triggers that are happening there that's just bringing everything down into being in a rest and digest place in your nervous system, and being very regulated and getting out of the of the mind and coming into a different place. And so those are like the first two things I do, and pretty much that always does the trick for me. Lauren, what's your trick?
I like that. Well, a couple things too is not drinking too much water too late at night so that you're not going to wake up having to go to the bathroom. One thing that sometimes can help that, and this might be a whole other podcast, we could talk about mouth taping, but that does change the quality of sleep. So if any of you are mouth breathers, we might need to do a whole podcast on that. If any of you are mouth breathers, that is really going to affect the quality of your sleep, the quantity of your sleep, and your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep as well. So we are made to breathe through the nose, but we have the ability to breathe through the mouth. And we're actually called obligate nose breathers. And so sometimes you'll see little babies, and if their noses are stuffed up, that's why we have the ability to breathe through the mouth, but they'll cry because they can't breathe. And then that crying will allow them to breathe, to get oxygen in the lungs. But we're not meant to breathe through the mouth. And if you breathe through the mouth, all kinds of things happen that aren't good for you. We've talked about James Nestor's book, Breath. And if you haven't read it, read it because it's fabulous. But that's one of the things you can do is you put a very light taping over the lips, and it keeps the mouth closed to retrain you to nose breathe. And that can help you stay asleep through the night, because breathing through the mouth can actually, it dries out the mouth. It makes you have to urinate more in the middle of the night. It does all these other things. So that's one thing. And I do mouth tape with some regularity. I didn't even, you talked about breathing, which I'm talking about now, so it's kind of funny I'm going to say this, but when you said that you do this breathing, it never even occurred to me to, in the middle of the night, do some pranayama if I wake up. So I was like, oh, that's fascinating. But what I do is I do the palming that you do as well. I'll often cross my hands, and there's something about the way, like if I'm sleeping on my side and I cross my hands over to do that palming, that I can actually snuggle in and I'll go right back to sleep like that with my hands crossed and covering my eyes. Another thing that I do, again, this is a technique that we use all the time in energy medicine yoga. It's just putting your hand over your forehead as if you're taking your temperature. And you can like prop up the pillows in bed so that you can just lie down like that. And I'll often have my other hand resting somewhere down the center line of my body. We're not going to get into chakras right now, but resting on it doesn't even matter where, resting somewhere on the center line of your body, you will be over a chakra. And wherever that hand intuitively falls is often where there is some disturbance that is kind of causing you to be a little bit buzzy and not be able to sleep. And so that one, that hand over the forehead, even sometimes when I'm falling asleep, it really just calms everything down. If I'm really stimulated, and this doesn't happen often because like you, I can just fall asleep on a dime, but you can just take a finger and smooth down over your third eye. Just smooth down. You could just do the smooth down the whole center line of your forehead. And especially for people, and I would imagine a lot of the people that tune into our podcast are very psychically aware, maybe empathic, and pick up a lot of information from the fields around you constantly. And that can be wonderful and also exhausting. And just doing that little smooth down the center line of the forehead can really, it's literally closing the third eye so that then you can relax and go to sleep. Instead of that breathing practice that you do that I really like, I will sometimes, and this happened just last night because we watched this very stimulating show and it was kind of a whodunit. So I'm thinking, and I don't want to think about that because now I want to go to sleep. And I'll just start repeating a mantra in my mind. And this happens anytime like there's something going on where my head can go, we've been doing a lot of really intense work in our company. And so I lie down in bed and I get all these ideas and, I should have done that. And I got to text Blaine, we have to fix this thing. And instead of that, I'll just start to chant a mantra. And it'll often just be an om. I just want to focus my mind on something that is not a story, that is not words, that is not going to stimulate me, but it's going to calm the whole system. And I'll just chant om, om in my head a few times. And like you said, and then it's the morning.
I love that. I'm so glad you said that about mantra. Yeah, very similar to the breath. It's just an anchor. You're just anchoring your thoughts on something besides your thoughts, on something else. So mantra, I'm sure for many people would also be a beautiful solution. So, Lauren, I think we did sleep. What do you think?
I think we did sleep too. This has been really fun. And I have a few other ideas about sleep, but they don't really lend themselves so much to an audio podcast. So maybe what we'll do is we'll figure out another way to share this, and then we'll drop in some show notes where people can find this other information. So reach out to us and leave us a comment here. What's your sleep routine like? Do you sleep well? Do you nap during the day? We didn't cover napping, so I think we're going to come back and do another podcast on sleep. Blaine mentioned that digestion is one of the other pillars of health in Ayurveda, and we'll just leave the third one to tackle another day because it's a really juicy and exciting and fun one. So leave us a comment there. How do you sleep? Do you not sleep? Do you need more tools to sleep? Or try one of these tools and see if it helps you, and let us know. We love hearing from you. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you so much, Blaine, for sharing all your queen sleep wisdom.
Yeah, you're welcome. Everybody have a great rest of the day and a restful sleep tonight.
Bye.
Alrighty, Energy fans, that's a wrap on another positively charged episode of Energy Works. Lauren, this is the part where we get to use our energy puns.
It's been electrifying, hasn't it, Blaine? We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have.
If you're feeling amped up and you want to keep your energy flowing, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform.
And we'd love to hear from you. So please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us continue to deliver content that resonates. So light up our inbox.
And spark a conversation with your friends to tell them about us. And we'll see you next time on Energy Works.